Welcome back to another Culture Talk segment with Rebecca Munoz, your host and founder of Cultured Society. We are here with another special and beautiful guest, Alexis Duran, coming from Phoenix, Arizona. And Alexis and I had the opportunity to meet during a time that I was living in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was living in Scottsdale, working part-time at a yoga studio where I had the opportunity to connect with the most beautiful souls that I would have never had the opportunity to connect with had I not been open to the experience of just allowing myself to flow through the journey while I was living in Arizona. And if you have not had the opportunity to join me on these conversations yet, I have had a multicultural group of guests come through. And although I'm asking the exact same questions through every interview, every single conversation has been so unique because although I like to say we are all a part of one body, we are all made of very similar components. We all have a specific DNA code that we were brought to Earth to fulfill. So we are all having a very different life experience. We come with different life philosophies and just ideals of how we are maneuvering through this journey called life. And so this really inspired, actually, I was inspired to create Cultured Society years ago when I was living in Chicago, Illinois. And this brand has evolved over the course of my life and through journeying through different cities that I've lived in and, the travels that I've had the opportunity to experience, I've come to this conclusion that Cultured Society is here to unite the colorful souls that walk through these doors. We are here to unconditionally love every aspect of your brilliant being, extending love, compassion, empathy, understanding, and grace, consistently offering multicultural views, higher perspectives, and holistic ways of living. We are here to develop your mind through creativity and multidimensional ways of thinking, teaching you ways to be mindful and kind, while you consistently lead through this life fearlessly, gifting you tools that will allow you to give and think freely, leaving you with no choice but to release everything that is limiting you from being a divine and abundant human being. Now, Alexis Duran has been a native to Arizona for 28 years. After her general studies, she went on to receive her yoga teacher training through the Madison Improvement Club. Passionate about helping others find movement and journey to love, she spent the next 4 years teaching at various studios and establishments. In her free time, she loves to spend time with her partner, Tyler, her 2-year-old daughter, Roka, and 8-year-old son, Braxton. You can either find them out hiking somewhere out by the lake or trying new delicious foods. And like I mentioned, I had the opportunity to meet Alexis when I was practicing yoga at this studio in North Scottsdale. And not only did we have the opportunity to connect during yoga classes, which I had the opportunity to take some of her amazing classes, and they were so impactful, but we also had many opportunities to connect outside of the studio where I got to experience this divine soul in her beautiful essence. And, just reading her content and experiencing all of the beautiful energy that she puts out into this world, I just thought it would be an amazing idea to have her as a guest because she has so much wisdom, even at such a young age, so much experience that she has to give to this world. So with this, I introduce the beautiful Alexis.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah,
I'm really grateful. I'm just so proud of you. Like you were just like blossoming and glowing. So I am just so proud of you. And I'm so grateful to have you around too. Like for sure. It's definitely, as you get older, you definitely don't hang out with your friends like as often, but like I feel like relationships definitely separate more often, especially if you practice releasing. And so I'm happy to have you still like in my field for sure.
Absolutely. And I am currently in New Mexico. Alexis is in Arizona. And I like to say that we have 0 degrees of separation, even though this world is so large. We are all energy and we operate off this energetic field that is so massive, right? So it's like we're still connected to souls that are even on other parts of the world. And what's great about technology is that if you use it with divine intention, you have the opportunity to stay connected, to stay even more connected sometimes with people across the world than with people that are living in your own area code. So
Totally.
definitely take the opportunity to connect and use social media with intention, because you can definitely connect with people that are going to inspire you to level up in so many different areas of your life. So as I mentioned earlier,
universal message right there. I was just saying this yesterday. I'm like, I'm stuck between like needing to like wanting to post because it's like a release, but not wanting to be on social media. I'm like, oh, just do it with intention. Go on and post, and then that's it, you know? So thank you for reminding me to
yes.
circle back to that today.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, if you're a follower of mine, of my social media platforms, I spend a lot of time on social media, but I spend a lot of time on social media giving out free content. And so, you know, I research and then I put out, I research, I put out, I research and I put out. And I think it's really important for us as conscious creators to continue to circulate the knowledge and the experiences that we have had over the years. And when we're going through our healing process, because it never stops. I believe that we're a constant and never ending evolution. And that when you say that you're done healing, you're lying, because we are, you know, we are multidimensional, and there's layers upon layers within us that when we're going through this healing process, we're constantly peeling back the layers, and we're finding areas of our life that were untouched, especially because we live in a society now that is so microwave, right? We want everything so quick, and we oftentimes sedate, and we don't take our time to really learn ourselves with divine intention. And so when you're going through that process, you'll find things about yourself that you never imagined when you take the time to just peel back the layers and learn yourself. And again, it's a never ending evolution. And I'm here as a never ending student. And I love connecting with these people because I'm every day learning, and it never stops. So with this, Alexis, we go into this conversation with the question about life philosophy. Tell me, what is your life philosophy?
So, like I've told you before, I was like having to research on this philosophy thing. I guess I just never put this into perspective. I would say more, it would be to like, just, you're going to get what you put out. So you're going to meet your own energy, and like trying to, I don't know, I feel like move consciously with that. I don't know how to really word that. But a lot like karma. But I just don't see it so like quickly. I feel like that's been kind of over the last few years, has been a little bit of a fluctuation seeing it. So I try to take moment to moment and feel like almost like a tug on like, where is there like a little bit too much going one way, and try to bring it back into the center, because that's ultimately what's going to make the bigger picture, you know?
And how would you say that philosophy has evolved through the years? Because I mean, I know in conversations with you in the past, your life wasn't always the way that it is now. So how has that evolved for you?
Honestly, I feel like my life has greatly calmed down. I feel like I was talking to Tyler about this, about if I were to put out an article, what would be the first article I would write on? And it would actually be the reality of that, to what I have come to experience, is that finding spirituality, or, you know, a spiritual practice or whatever that is, mindfulness, consciousness, that when you become aware of it, it actually feels like for maybe a period of time, it's kind of a detriment to your life, because the way this is the philosophy has fluctuated over the last few years is, I feel like instead of having boundaries, I almost overthink too much about why someone is the way they are, and then their childhood, and then it cause, it's forgiveness, right? Which is good, but then you forget about your own boundaries. Mm-hmm. So I feel like finding that balance with spiritual, and then also not wanting to maybe like the no pleasure in life sometimes too, right? Like, I don't want to eat that, like that's so bad, no way, like just too intense about everything, rather than realizing you can have a pleasure to life. Like, you don't have to take a vow of silence and go live in the woods. Like, that would be nice, but we are at a place where we have technology, like trying to find like that groundedness. I felt like for a while I was just so in the clouds, which was creating a lot of chaos. I feel like trying to find that groundedness through external sources.
Do you think that being out where you are right now has kind of allowed you to think about your life that way? Because I mean, mm-hmm. even though we're inundated with, social media, technology and all of that, it really gives you the opportunity to kind of retreat when you're out in nature the way that you are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I live about 40 minutes out of Phoenix, a little bit more towards Sedona. And yeah, we just have like property out here. Like, we have cows that come and like graze on our property, like it's beautiful out here. And I remember when we were looking for a place, like we bought our home and went into lockdown within like 2 days. So it was like, it was like very close, but we were like so grateful. But that was a whole experience, right? Like just getting into a place and then doing all this, which was so definitely healing, to go through a slower process. And a lot of people told me not to do it, that I'm from in town. You're going to miss being in town next to Walmart and to these things. And like, my brain was like, and then I was like, but I love it. I just felt it. I walked inside and I was like, no, I love it. And it was the best decision ever,
That's so good. That's so good. I mean, it's interesting because we live in this fast-paced society, right? Like, we're always distracted. We're always go, go, go. We always feel like we have to be hustling and working and doing all these things. But when you take the time to kind of retreat and put yourself in a place like nature where you're not really surrounded by a lot of noise, it really gives you the opportunity to reflect and to really like pay attention to what's important. Wouldn't you agree?
Totally. And a big thing is like, we have like a dollar store and we have like a little market, but I don't go there personally unless I just happen to need something. So my grocery store is like 25 minutes from here. So it's made me definitely live more minimally and like cautiously too, like to where I don't want to go back and forth, especially with the main freeway, the I-17 being right here, and it's like on a weekend, I'm like, I'm not leaving. No way, So it's allowed me to be at home more. Whereas I feel a few years back, I was hiking a lot and like on mountains for like hours on end. And at the time I was doing it in a peaceful way, right? Like I was retreating. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, that was actually running away from your stuff, just in a different way. But because I did it in a mindful way, right? That's where I was kind of finding the balance, because in my eyes, I was doing something good for me. I was hiking and stuff like that, but I also was so away from myself, because I couldn't sit at home. I couldn't sit still. And then now, like being able to do that, I'm like such a home feeling.
That's so good. That's so good. And I know that because we're always surrounded by people and we tend to be influenced by the people that we surround ourselves with. How would you say that your upbringing and circle of influence has impacted the way that you think and live your life today?
Meaning like through my friends circle of growing up?
I mean, circle of influence, whether it be your family, the people that you chose to surround yourself with.
I think that, right, this is where I come a little bit, because it's like I'm very grateful for everything, for sure, that I've ever got to experience. I've experienced a lot. But I feel like where I'm at now in the life that I have known in my soul that I've wanted to live, but just was kind of, whether it be just not set up in the right environments, I guess, and had found that yet. I feel like looking back on it, it almost was a little bit more faster than I wanted. It was more wild than I wanted. And I didn't get to have those many like girlfriends or like close friends. So I feel like I struggled a lot growing up in school, like finding like my crowd. I just didn't get it. So now growing up, I feel like it reminds me, it has a lot of healing looking back into my younger life. And it's like, oh, you just wanted to hang out more by yourself. But it's like everything's so go, go, go. Like you said, you get lost in the crowd, and then things kind of fall from there, rather than you've actually seeing it's like you've actually liked those aspects of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So do you tend to surround yourself with a lot of people now that you are out in the area that you're in?
No, I feel like honestly, I have a very slower, calmer life. Like I hang out literally with the family. I'm very cautious of like making sure I have my girlfriend time. Other than that, like we don't really like know too many people up here, starting to know more people. But because of the town, it is also trying to be aware of the friendships that I want to bring in. I just have like a very couple of girlfriends that I've had throughout years, like yourself, a couple of ones that I've had that I just like get to see every now and then and drop in with. But other than that, like I'm go to the lake a lot, I'm hiking a lot, walking around, spending time with the kids, like I'm fully embodied in the mom role. And like it is such a pleasure.
When did that start shifting for you, when you really started to pay attention to the people that you were surrounding yourself with?
When it kept getting me in trouble. And trouble in a lot of ways, not even like legally, right? But it was just like when I'm just sad and I'm drained and I am feeling more anxious, and you feel like you're compromising your voice to like live in somebody else's truth, and more of following when it's like that you're meant to be like more of a lead. So these things that just didn't feel right in relationships.
Interesting. Then do you think that your life really started shifting because Braxton is 8, right?
8. He'll be 8 in July. Yeah.
So did that start to change even when you had your first child?
No, I feel like it's a big thing for me now. So I didn't know if I really ever wanted to have kids. I was unsure. And then I got pregnant at 19, had him by 20. So being that young, now looking back on it, I feel like I had a lot more postpartum that I didn't even know what that was, being 20 years old, and trying to also find who you are at 20 years old and then 21 years old, and being okay to stay at home all the time, but like maybe want to go to a Taco Tuesday, right? But then because you don't go out that often, it becomes like, so it was just like this really negative cycle that I went through of trying to ground in fully into that mom role. And it was, and I believe in this 7-year turnover, right? And so it was huge for me to Braxton being 7 and getting pregnant and delivering Roka 7, when he's 7. And because it was so like such a godly moment to be like, wow, like you thought you have, because you have so much guilt and mom guilt, or just being young and stuff like this, right? And then to get this other beautiful gift as well, you're like, wow, you're just human, and like you are a mom. And it's like, so, and then being in the lockdown, being able to be with Braxton, I had to go back to work within a month, so that holds a lot on me because I didn't get that time, right? But we're also in a society where it's not set up for that. So like trying to accept that as well and go back and forth on this. But having this lockdown happen in the year that I delivered, and we all got to stay home, you know, so it was just so like, so thankful. Like I took so many beautiful things out of the lockdown with it as well.
That's great. And you know, it's so crazy because we don't ever really think about sometimes our misfortunes, or we think about our misfortunes as being our greatest blessings, right? Last year was something that our entire world didn't expect. It was something that happened so unexpectedly, and it really like made everybody shift. But in the grand scheme of things, it was one of the greatest blessings because it gave us the opportunity to really reflect on what is truly important, being able to spend quality time with more intention with our families, understanding that our health is our greatest blessing, and that if we don't focus on that, what else do we have, right? What else do we have to live for? So that's really great that you've taken the time to really think of that and look at it from a higher perspective. Now, I know that that you have been teaching yoga for quite some time now. Do you believe that your line of work infects our society with positivity? And if so, how so?
So with the lockdown coming about as well, and then as well as being super pregnant before the lockdown was about to come, I took a break from teaching at that moment. And kind of where I'm at with, I do think that like maybe like the philosophies, right? Like you just have to find the teacher that works for you, the places that work for you, where you feel comfortable, where you feel safe. I think a lot of things have come to light about the yoga community over the last few years. And so making sure you feel respected with your body in classes, stuff like this. So I do think the philosophies of it definitely, like I hope like everyone needs to move their body, energy's got to move, and understanding the emotions and being able to connect all these things are amazing. I think I want to pull a little bit, I would like to maybe pull people a little bit from the idea of necessarily going to sticking with a studio and knowing that there's so much yoga that happens every day. That's massive to me. And I think the struggle with the yoga to me is it's very, I see it as like what society sees it as, and it's studio, hot yoga, whoever it is. And you want to make sure you're going to a studio where you stand by the owner on so many levels, right? Where it's just a lot of their beliefs, but to just wherever you got to go to get those principles down, to know that take it off the mat, be a good human, move your body, let yourself cry, you know, do the yoga.
So is that the principles that you live by when you individually practice or when you teach outside of a studio? Because I know that our life isn't really just the work that we do, you know, to exchange our time for money. I know that your work is a constant. So how would you say that you as a person, as an individual, infect our society with positivity?
Cool. Yeah, I would say that's going to be an easier question because I'm pulling away from this yoga teacher idea. I'm like, I feel like my writing is my content. So needing to just trust that flow, right? Like I have other ways I feel like I'm supposed to do this,
yes,
rather than feel like a guru or be seen as that way. Cause I'm like, I'm not, you know? So I feel like what I would put out into the world is definitely that I feel like I let people feel comfortable with me. So I feel like I am very fortunate that people feel safe to open up to me and share things with me. And I feel like that watching people go through those breakthroughs and like being able to be that, use all the things that you have learned, right? All the things you have studied, but in a face conversation with somebody, watching them go through it. So more like therapist, honestly. I don't know if you've seen couples therapy. Have you seen it? You have. I am like all in it because I'm like the questions, like it's so fun. I love to watch people unravel. And I feel like that is a positivity, is to somebody who can make you shed, you know?
I mean, giving people space is such it's a beautiful opportunity for us to be able to give a no judgment free zone, right? Where we talked about this before we pressed record, is just having the space to be able to express ourselves freely and to just be ourselves. And I feel like that's what all of us, have the capacity to do. We just don't always give the time. We don't always want to express the energy, or even just, give people the space. But it's so important for us to be able to continue to do that, for us to continuously heal.
And I think a lot of people also are afraid to step into those I feel like a lot of the time are really natural. Like, I think people care more than what people think that they care. People love more than what they think they do. But because we live in a society where you have to keep studying and you have to do this and find this, like, I think people they miss the connection to do this other thing, because they think that there's maybe no line of work in there, no income to be made. And it's like, if you follow your soul, and like, if that's making people feel good and whatever it is, doing hair, massage therapy, yoga therapy, whatever it is, it's like you're doing your role, and like the universe will provide a source for you to have income off that eventually,
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you just have to step into that role with no expectations that maybe you won't get compensated right away. In fact, a lot of the work that you and I do has not been compensated for in the means of monetary energy, but we're always taken care of. And that's one of the things that I really, it's helped me, especially over the past year, shift my perspective about when it comes to energy exchange, and recognizing that our giftings may not always be, again, gifted back with monetary, but we always are taken care of when we're doing the work that we're supposed to be doing. And that goes into my next question. Do you believe that the work that you do every day is aligned with your calling and your higher purpose?
Yes, I feel like my brain goes to like a societal thing right now of, wanting to say no, because I'm like on probably the realm of a lot of people right now, just kind of confused on what to do, how to not be scared to put a YouTube video out there, like to do these things. So feeling a little lost in that realm, but also very much so grounded, just fearful of my own self, right? But the other part that I stand very grounded in saying absolutely yes is being a mom. The way I'm raising those kids, the principles that we're teaching in this house, the way it builds a stronger relationship. So it's like we are putting, like, being able to send that vibration outwards, is like so truthful to every bit I want to live. Like, I don't feel like I feel like it's not common for a lot of people in relationships to feel seen and being able to live in their truth in their household. I think a lot of people challenge that, and it's not supported, right? So I feel very fortunate to have a partner who lives that same principles, those same lifestyles, and to see these kids blossoming. And because the world is still a little slow, it's still a little locked down. That's just like, I feel like trying to remember that that's enough right now, right? That's enough.
Yes, no, that's so good. And, I really, I think it's so important, because oftentimes we define success. Success in our society is defined as something a lot different than what I perceive success to be. And success can be really anything, being a stay-at-home mom and, supporting your children in every phase of their life, even being a restaurant cook, being a server, being, working for the post office, working for UPS. Like, I believe that success really, no matter what it is that you do and every role that you play, is that you're doing it with contentment, when you're doing it with joy, when you're doing it with a state of fulfillment, and just, because we need every single person in those roles, right? We need every single person that does anything that requires an act of service. And so that to me is success, the definition of success. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree for sure. I think what's also kind of coming to me as well is you definitely want to show up for the things that you're there for, just like to fully show up, right?
Body it.
I think what kind of surfaces is that, right, coming back to this lockdown, it forced everybody to kind of stop. So things are so having to refine that purpose, right? And it's like, and when you say like, you're kind of like, you've done this thing for, right? So it's like, it's hard to also stay, how you said, like an act of service, right? Even though it's serving, right? I think you go through periods, right? That's why you want to keep being okay with change. So it's like, you're done with this area. I'm okay. Like, I'm going to go do this now, and being okay with that change. But once I think that this is where we're at kind of with the world, is people stay a little too long. And when you stay a little too long, you can no longer do your job with the fullest that you are, because you're going against every bit of your soul. Right. And then, so I'm kind of in that place of the decision of like, this is where I'm at. Like, since like I got, like, what do I do? Like, this is comfortable right now. Or do I just like put the video out? Right. Like, what to do, but like being in the middle, I think, is where a lot of people are. I think so many people know that they are not living their passion, that they are not putting out what they want, and their artwork or their music or whatever it is, people are not putting out what they want. But everyone's in that stuck in between. And I think the more people know that more people are there than just them, like, we can like be more compassionate. It's like, hey, go get another job. You can go get another job. You'll get hired, like, put your song out there. Who cares what people think? Like, that's it. Like, who cares, and trying to stay with that. Because it's hard to stay really positive in a place where you feel unaligned or unvalued.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes we get stuck in these mundane routines, right? Where we get so comfortable to wake up and do the same thing over and over and over again. And again, going back to 2020, where it's like almost as though we need the rug pulled from underneath our feet to wake up and do something different. And although change is happening, it's a constant. It's happening around us all the time. We tend to have a lot of resistance towards change, and then we start to feel misaligned, and we start to feel the discontentment, and we start to feel the unfulfillment. But it's okay. You don't have to be doing the same thing as everybody else, and you don't have to be doing the same thing for 10, 15, 20 years. If you're doing it just because it's bringing in a paycheck. Again, when you are going with your soul's purpose, it may be very uncomfortable, because I'm going to tell you right now, just like you,
right?
I've stepped out in the most uncomfortable situations. Like, I walked away from my corporate career in 2016, walked away from a very cushy salary, 401k benefits. It was aligned with what I went to school for. And it just it wasn't in alignment with my soul purpose anymore. It was before, but I changed and things changed for me. And it was very uncomfortable to walk away from that, because you're walking into the unknown and you don't know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, we really don't ever know what's going to happen. Our life can end in a matter of a second.
It's interesting. I love hearing everyone's different ways of how they've lived, right? Because I struggled more in school. School wasn't really my thing. Like, I switched jobs. Like, as soon as I was over something, I was like, I'm out, and I was kind of like that way with people, and just I was all over the place, And so I feel like a little bit of life work is figuring out groundedness, because I'm either like all in or all out, like in everything. So trying to find like that that middle place. So it's interesting because how you said that was like your corporate job and it was scary. So I feel like almost I was just at serving at this place, and I feel like I was not being valued was not being valued. And it took one of the younger kids, right? Like a younger mindset. I feel like has to be a point to me. And he's 19 and he had put his 2 weeks in, and I had asked him, how do you feel? And he was like, great, I can get another job. And it was in that moment that I was like, your value. Oh yeah. Like I have only started to do how you said you felt comfortable at your corporate job. Like you didn't know what to do. I have never felt that way about any job until recently. So I feel like I'm going through the stripping right now in the morning of like, because I just left there last week, so I'm going through the morning of like, that was the first time because I was like, my goal was to get grounded, fine, and I did. And then it just reminds you, change is inevitable. Yeah. Like getting too comfortable, you will pain yourself, it's like, because right when you accept that, it's like you're going to be challenged to stand up for yourself, to stand up for your beliefs, or to, to go to the next level in some way or whatever it is. And I feel like that's like a big thing I'm moving through right now is making sure I know like my value, and to remember like you are raising kids, you have friends that remind you of your value too. And it's like, you want to stay aligned in your truth all the time.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely. So then, so how do you stay relevant, unique, and true to who you are as a person? Just removing away, like stripping away all the noise, because it's so easy to fall into the comparison trap and to really, compare yourself to what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. So, how do you remove yourself from that and stay aligned with who you are?
So about on the comparison number, I remember reading something, and it was, right, this was like finding the balance, kind of what I was speaking on earlier, of like of spirituality, how you're like, because comparison or judgment, is a very natural, it's automatic in the mind. It's just natural, right? So rather than making it a negative thing, I feel like, because some people, I had this idea, right, finding this yoga practice, I was trying to cut thoughts off in my mind. And that was like ultimately suffering, right? Because your brain doesn't work like that. It's like you can try to reprogram, reshift, but it doesn't think like that. Your brain's going to still have these thoughts. So I try to use any form of judgment or comparison in a positive way to stay aligned with myself. And it's like, I'm like, maybe comparing of, a style. I'm like, oh, maybe it's just because I want to dress a little bit nicer now. Okay. Like I want to get ready, so trying to stay like with my peers, and the peers being the outside world, by using, I guess, how you said, comparison in a positive way in these things, and to make sure it's like, okay, like they're doing that. I really dig that. I dig that. You have that aspect. Like I can do that too. Like you don't like that. Oh, well, let's look a little bit deeper, right? Asking those deeper questions, because it doesn't turn into hate. It turns into like love and acceptance for the outside world.
Sure.
So yeah.
That's good. And I think that that kind of goes back to the circle of influence, right? Where mm-hmm. you're accepting of what's going on around you, and you can pick and choose what you want to make a part of your reality, but you can pick and choose. We have the ability to do that, where you can filter out what doesn't resonate with you, and you can adopt what does, but you're not necessarily doing it to maybe impress, or it's just because mm-hmm. you just want to, you just like totally. It, right?
Totally. I agree. I 1000% agree. And I think where we struggle is the okayness with separation. I had this conversation with my girlfriend in the past week, because she, from the outside, you don't see what people are moving through, right? So I feel like on the outside, people maybe see that I'm able to like leave a situation that's not right and move on. But they don't see like how much emotional work and soul work that takes, right, to make those choices, and how long it took up to that point to make that choice. Like, I think people want that, how you said, microwave and the instant gratification. And they're like, but this person's doing that, I can't do that. It's like, that person spent a long time studying. You know, that person's put a lot of practice. You know, that person went through a lot and finally made the decision to get a divorce. Whatever it is, I think people just, they don't see like how of having to do the mental practice of, it's going to be your life will be in pain if you want to store everything to items, to people. You will feel so like claustrophobic. It's important to make sure that you're having those things released, like, you know, purging items, purging relationships, purging emotions, purging.
Absolutely. It's so important. I mean, the clearing process never ends.
It's draining. It's slightly draining.
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that just with anything, it's so important to embrace those aspects of our life as a way for us to, it's kind of like, I like to say it's a rinse and repeat process, just the way that we take a shower. It's the way that we cleanse our inner self and cleansing our outer, like our exterior environment from stuff that's no longer serving. And we're going through a shedding process, just like snakes do. In fact, within the last week or so, going out running, I've seen 2 snake skins in different areas of my neighborhood. Yeah, and that's so symbolic for what we go through every single day. We're always shedding. So it's important for us to embrace that aspect of our lives and to not judge it, because it's so easy. Just like you, I am super sensitive when it comes to like the changes that I'm going through. And I'm so hard on myself through the process. I'm my own worst critic. I mean, it's draining. I drain myself just from the
but I feel like the big store in that, which would make, I feel like what I hope to bring to the world is the reminder of why you need women in your corner, why you need supportive women in your corner, and continuing having relationships that are aligned. I think we have relationships that we've been friends since we've been in kindergarten, and those ones are not, those are draining, right? Those are the ones that you feel like you have to reach out to or whatever it is. So having strong women in your corner, I feel like, to remind you of your value and your worth and your beauty when you don't see it, it like will keep moving. It will help you keep moving forward.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what practices do you implement into your, because you've talked about grounding a lot through this conversation. So talk to us about how you implement grounding into your daily life to stay connected to yourself and your source.
Grounding, I would say that I come back to a lot of meeting your own energy, right? So I come back to meeting your own energy. And so I feel like that in a lot of ways for me goes throughout my whole day, where that's kind of become like my little bit of a mantra, where like if I start to notice my heart rate's going up, I'm like, okay, like just take a step back, like every moment. So moving, not just because this past year was a tough year for a lot of reasons, and I one day at a time became too, that was a lot. Like one day at a time was just a lot. So I remember someone telling me, just move moment to moment. And I was like, okay, like I can do that, you know? And so it actually was like, even though it was so small, like just like probably like someone just saying moment to moment, you know? But I was like, for somebody going through things, I was like, okay, it's allowed me to be more aware of my heart rate again, of my breath again. And I feel like this year I've been more hard on myself because I don't have that, you know, deep yoga practice that I had physically. I mean, like in a studio, right? Because I see it as like this deep practice when and I feel like I need to go do that. And get in there immediately to have it. But in all reality, I think I might die in a hot yoga class for an hour right now. I'm like, no way. No way.
Yeah.
And I used to do back to back sometimes. I'm like,
yeah.
No.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine going back to that anymore.
No, I'm like, my dehydration, like I'm just everything. I was like, no way, that would just be painful, you know? So it's funny to like, it becomes comical to see like where you are, but it only became comical because I've accepted it now and processed it, because for a while I was like, I need to get back in there. I felt like my mind wasn't working because I wasn't in there. So having to go moment to moment and remember that this is the yoga practice, and to watch your heart rate, notice when your breath is shifting. Also, I learned this a lot through, various plant medicines, is watching vibrations shift. And like literally when I'm excited, or when you're yelling and then somebody starts yelling back, or like a dog gets crazy, right? It's all just vibrations going higher. So I try to just make sure, like if I'm especially having a 7-year-old, if I'm noticing like we're starting to do this, I'm like, bring it down, like control myself, right? Which is where you want, I think a lot of people are like, you need to calm down, you need to do this. So it's like having that control to be like, bring it back, calm down, and then watching your energy, watching that control of your own self affect another being, because you're like, oh yeah, we are connected, and seeing it play out. I feel like the more you watch it, right? Even I know you work with manifestations and things. So it's like seeing it work out, and it's like, oh my goodness, no, like just stay committed to these things and you're going to see things just work for you, and they're going to be unexplainable, but you're going to realize, wow, these are practices that like I need to help me be a sane human being.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said about the moment to moment, because we are literally, what happened yesterday and even earlier today is already history. What is happening later today and what's happening tomorrow has not been created yet. The only existence that we have available to us is right here and right now. So when we're operating second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, it makes our ability to manage our stress, to manage our anxieties. But it's really challenging also, because we are sensitive human beings. We're vibrational beings. We're energy. We're literally feeling the energies of the collective, like it's all around us, right? So the more that we embrace what's happening in this space right here, is the more that we're able to understand that this is all that's happening. So we have more ability to be in appreciation of our breath, right? We recognize that we have no control over anyone that's outside of us. Only thing that we can and have control over is what's happening right here.
And I can only hope that everybody can come to find this, especially I feel like, because it's hard to find when you are in chaos, and to be like that calm wave with everything being crazy around you, right? Like to be calm in your car sitting in traffic, to be calm in line standing at the grocery store, to be calm in the middle of chaos, right? And I feel like what is it that they would say is that the mental tools aren't for like your good season, they're for the hard seasons, and when you lose them, it's like, I think these things that you embody every day seem very small, right? So when you're having a good day, it's easy to be happy, the sunlight feels great, everything feels great, and it's like those are natural medicines that you don't think about, because I feel like sometimes you fully embodied it, but then when you have hard days, it's like to remember to go outside, to see the sunlight, to take a sip of water, to brush your teeth in the morning, to, to do these really basic things that you take for granted that you do every day. But those are actually self-care things, making your bed. Like, and I think people let that all be. And it's like, when you're in, I try to also stay aware of what my house inside looks like and inside of my car, because I notice that my car, I'm like, when I get to a point, sometimes I'm like, I need to clean my car. I'm like, and I'm cleaning it. I'm like, this is where my mind has been. And I think so staying aware of, yes, who you're surrounding yourself with, but also like your environments,
Absolutely.
Opening the windows, like just little medicines that maybe don't seem like medicines.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yes, absolutely. And, just like our internal body is our temple, right? The environment that we live in right here, because everybody takes this for granted. We take it for granted, right? It's like everything that we put into our mouth counts. Everything that we allow brew in our mind counts. Everything that we allow into our energetic field counts. The way that we manage our household counts. The way that we don't clean, the way that we do clean, it's a practice that we need to incorporate on a day-to-day basis, because it really, whether we like to admit it or not, it affects every aspect of our being. And it's the simple things like waking up and making your bed, brushing and scraping your tongue. Like that is like,
and you can incorporate like, because I remember a lot of people, especially when this teaching, they're like, I don't know how to meditate. I can't sit there. I'm like, okay, let's I always would recommend, starting with those basics, like brushing your teeth. And I would just brush my teeth. Any like hurtful words that you said, just being like manifesting, like just clearing out your mouth, washing your hair, you're like washing your thoughts, like just intentional. And also massage, right? Self-love, like just like being so intentional. And I feel like those are the big practices that when you're in your hard seasons and your hard days, just getting ready and going outside, it's like already more than, maybe you don't need to do anything more than that,
Absolutely. It's so simple. It's the simplest things, and we don't have to do anything that's extravagant. We don't even have to necessarily go to an actual yoga studio. I think that's, you said it, yoga and meditation is a practice of just being, moving our body and allowing energy to flow through our body. Breathing, consciously breathing is a meditation and yoga practice. So it doesn't have to be anything extensive. It doesn't have to be anything that's going to cost you a lot of money. It literally is like you yourself are the tool that you need. All you need.
Totally. And just like, and moving with, I feel like, especially having kids, I remember my mom saying to walk with a purpose, like when I was younger, and even like training some of the younger kids at like my job, in high school, I'm like, hey, move with intention, because it's like, you want to intentionally be here. You want to intentionally take up space, like own yourself, be yourself, and also if you don't want to be there, you don't have to be there. But I feel like we do live in a world where a lot of people are where they don't want to be.
Yeah.
And and I think people also, think about how, and it's like all the memes that you see. I'm glad that there's like humorous ones where they actually like put like what a spiritual awakening, what people think it is. And it's like in the sunlight, like what it actually is. It's like, it's like, so I'm glad that there is things like that, because it does lets people know like it's painful. Like you are going to realize things, ask things, feel things that you have never before. And I would like to help people find a way to soften the integration of that knowing, because right, I guess that circles back to where I struggled with how spirituality, finding that became a little bit detriment. Like I was just so stressed because I was like, who am I? What am I eating? Like, just like everything. So I feel like I would like to help that integration process, because I feel like you find it at the right times. And so when you find it, you're probably feeling in a lot of chaos. So that kind of practice can seem really hard and very out there for you to get into. But it's like, if people know that it starts with just brushing your teeth and those things that you do every day, the physical yoga and all those other things will come along. You know, just start with the mind, start with taking up your space and like showing up to your relationships, you know?
Yes, yes. And I mean, you've already given so many words of wisdom, but to end this conversation with some little nuggets of wisdom that are going to help people take on their days, what words of wisdom would you give to those seeking a deeper understanding of themselves?
Definitely I'll circle back around to just taking up space consciously, not letting fear. So I remember having this thought that was like, fear distorts your perception of reality. And that has always stuck with me. It was just, I was in deep one night and that was just what I kept. I was like, it really changes everything. And equally so, I feel like I can do an example. I remember hearing on a podcast, someone saying, when you go to an interview and you're like you're all scared, it's like, no, own yourself, because at the end of the day, that's another human being. You're a human being. So take the labels away, right? Let's move the labels and show up, you know, because your fear, it makes you nervous, makes, you know, it shifts things. And that was definitely a table. I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely a table. But yeah, so fear distorts your perception of reality, you know, and to just not be fearful of your own power, not to be fearful of the people around you. Tyler's been telling me lately, they can't eat you. So I keep reminding myself of that. Like when I feel fearful to like speak my truth, I'm like, they can't eat you, you know? And just to remember that, like we're badasses.
And another thing, this is real life right here. We had a disruption in the first go around recording that we tried to do where the technology just gave out on Miss Alexis. But you know, what's beautiful about that is that we are all human beings having we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And all of us, every second of the day, are just here figuring it out. And although it may seem like I myself have it together or Alexis has it together, we're all literally just figuring it out, you know? And it's so beautiful. I had a guest, I've had a few guests, and I've actually really liked to emphasize on my women guests because we are such badasses. I don't have children of my own, but I have a lot of experience working with children. So it's almost as though I've birthed many children over the course of my life. But it's so beautiful that women have the capacity to not only birth a child, you know, but raise a child, to be able to do multiple things. I mean, we're so multi-talented. We have so much depth. We are so sensitive. We're empathetic. We're compassionate. We're driven. We are just all around such beautiful human beings. And I myself, I was expressing this to my family yesterday that I have been undergoing so many fears that I never imagined even existed in my life, because I was always one of those people that would drive through my fears like they were nothing, like they didn't even exist, right? But it was always going to job interviews to do like work for a company, and I knew that I could fulfill those roles because I always had experience where, like, if I was trained to do something, I could make it happen, right? But now these are my creations. This is me. Like this is my responsibility, right? So it's really it's a different story when you're putting yourself out into the world on that like on that platform versus representing a company that's already established. And so regardless of where you are in your journey, you're always going to come across, whether it's fears, self-doubts, limiting beliefs, lies, deceptions. I mean, there's always going to be something that's going to try to trickle in into your mind, where you recognize you can come back to where you are right now and say, you know what, that's not the truth.
I'm glad to hear you say all of those, because I feel like there was a couple of things I would really like to, for sure, like I want that to be heard again, is you saying the way for people that it might look like somebody has it all figured out, especially with today's social media. That is so big. That's partially why I even struggled sometimes in teaching in studios, is because of the way I felt like I was viewed sometimes. And it really made me uncomfortable because I was so human, and people sometimes didn't see that, right? Because there was like a weird teacher like thing, right? So I feel like not to idolize, like to just know that every human is a human, even if it's the most famous person that you think is the coolest YouTuber ever or whatever. It's still a human that is having struggles no matter what they are portraying. And I think that I hope social media, I'm glad to see it taking a different form of real things, because I think it can be a big detriment for people idolizing a lot of lifestyles and not seeing what goes on behind, as well as women in your corner. You said that was like how you said we are badass, like the fact we can birth them. I think that is like I had a completely natural birth with Roka. And it was just like, Tyler was in the room, but it was like I had my, it was all women nurses and a doctor, like everyone was women. And just like since then, I've been like, it was shocking because I'm like, whoa, and I feel like to realize so much of my own strength. That was the craziest thing I've ever done. I had an epidural with Braxton, and still vaginally, but epidural. And for some reason, I guess in my mind, it is like the secret medicine that like didn't make it hurt. And like this whole thing, right? Like it just helped. And then when I had Roe and I realized I didn't have that, so it literally was just happening. I am like, that changed my mind so much to remember women's power and my own power to support other women in that, right? To whether it be childbirth or not, and however people choose to do it, but that you feel supported in your decisions. But that reminding women that it's like the feminine traits, right? Like feeling, intuition, the knowing, like those things that you just embody, that we really shut out, to come back to that. That first feeling you have about something, stick with that, because as soon as you start to reason with it, you're like already lost your vision, and it's like, trust that knowing, because it's there for a reason.
Yes, absolutely. You are so right. And we are intuitive by nature. And oftentimes we allow ourselves self-doubt to not allow us to operate in the fullest of that intuitive nature, where we do exactly what we're being called to do, and we're being influenced by everything around us, and we're not really doing, and then we're going against our own soul's path. And this is in the beginning when I talked about how we are all a part of one body. I do believe wholeheartedly that we are all one. However, we are here to fulfill a very specific purpose, and it may be in a very similar manner, because Alexis and I mean, we are both, I'd like to say that we're intuitive healers. We may be doing it on a different platform, and we have a very different life experience, but we have a very similar message. But she's in Arizona, I'm in New Mexico, and even though when we were in Arizona, we still had a very different audience. And so it's really important that we continue to have these conversations, because with these conversations, we're able to recognize that every single person is having their own personal struggles, right? Regardless if they may seem like they're operating in their divine purpose. Because let me tell you, this journey for myself, and I know Alexis, because I've learned learned a lot about her story is that it's not easy walking in your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenging you. It's challenging you every single day. It's stretching you. It's expanding you in ways that you never imagined. But to be honest with you, I won't go back to where I was before, because I was very limited in the mindset that I was living in before. And we're very limitless.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of
I agree with the and even also too earlier you said like facts, right? So like I think it's important that we also, people are aware of that. It's not like, it's just, there's so many layers, right? It's not just like that you feel like you're not living in your truth. It's also that maybe your parents wanted you to do something else because they did something else, and that your grandparents did something else. And then you want to look at the whole males, like what they're doing as a society, as what females are doing as a society, and what they're supposed to do or not supposed to do, right? So many layers play into living your truth and going to all those layers. Because I think maybe if someone's like, I just want a new job, you know, if some people might see it like, go get a new job, it's like, but that might be in having to do some deep work on their parents disapproving, you know. And now you're talking family stuff you have to go through now, you know, of healing through that. And like stripping, it is a constant stripping and stripping and stripping. And like, you have to be okay knowing you literally might be the only one standing in 2 years or something, you know, like no one in your life might be there. You might have had to release a parent or someone else, right? I think it's important too to state maybe taking away labels from things. Like I think of people, I hear a lot, like people don't defend themselves, you know, because they have like it's like their mom or their dad or a sibling or a friend. It's like, remove the label and be aware of if you would allow another human to treat you in a certain way. And it's like, and being okay releasing those people, no matter who they are or what label they hold in this lifetime. You have to stay true to yourself. And if you are being you're not seen, heard, valued, loved, appreciated, you know, then that's probably not your crowd, and that's okay. Keep going moment to moment, and the people will come to you, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And as we're going through that shedding process, right? We're growing into different levels. And I like to use the analogy of the tree. And as humans, we're like trees. We have the roots and we have the tree trunk and we have the branches, right? And those are the parts of us that are rooted. And that's kind of the way that people align with us, right? Where there's going to be those people, like I said this earlier, where there's going to be people that are going to be with us in seasons of our lives. And then there's going to be people that are going to be rooted and planted where they're going to continue with the different phases of our lives. Because as if you notice a tree, when it goes through different seasons, through the fall, it starts to the colors start to change, and then it starts to lose its leaves, and then in the spring it grows a new set of leaves. And that's kind of the way that our human experience goes, and it's okay for that to happen. And it's important for us to practice the art of detachment when we're going through these different phases of our life, because the more we detach from these experiences, the less we suffer, because it's just a cycle of life, just like death and rebirth. It's such a taboo topic to talk about, but it's just the nature of our reality. So the more that we accept that, the more we are able to grow just effortlessly.
And I feel like the way to maybe help people go about that is to have people know their values and what they stand for. Because if you don't know where you stand, you're allowing so much open energy just to come into you and start to help make those things make you decide, rather than if you know who you are, or at least what your goal is, where you stand, your values, the way you live your life, right? Your philosophy. Those people will find you. Otherwise, I feel like you're not intentionally taking up space in that point. So it's like energy vampires will come find you, and they're just looking for somewhere to attach. And it does have it comes with a lot of patterning, you know, if you have a lot of friends that you allow to walk all over you, like you're probably going to attract a couple more of those people as you shed those people away, just to see. I have this thing that I feel like when I make a decision, the universe always puts like a different person, different whatever, another situation in front of me, just to see if I've confirmed my decision. Like I feel like I've watched this happen. Like when I make a choice, I like wait for, I'm like, there's gonna be something that's gonna make me make sure I decided. And I feel like in that moment, I'm like, do I want to make this lap again, or am I aware of what's happening? I see that it's challenging me right now, and it's trying to get me to sucker back in, but I'm going to be uncomfortable and I'm going to make the other choice, you know, and then constantly doing that and not taking what everyone says to you to heart all the time, the grain of salt.
Absolutely. Oh, this was so good. I really appreciate all your insights and all your perspectives and experiences, Alexis. I know that whoever is going to take the time to watch this conversation, to tune in, that I pray that you just take in a little bit, whether it resonates with you or not. There's always nuggets of wisdom that you can take with you and implement into your daily lives. And so with this, I leave you and I thank you for joining us today. Do you have any finishing statements that you'd like to add, Alexis?
I don't. Thank you so much though for having me. I just goes to show I'm like, was late. I forgot my phone, my iPad died, my phone knocked over. I'm like, clearly. And then it's funny, my goal today is to literally, how you said earlier, intentional social mediating. So I'm like, technology is on the brain today. So I'm like, after this, I'm going to put my phone down and definitely spend some time with the fam. So I'm super grateful that I got to chat with you though. I'm so happy to see you thriving and what you're doing. And you were just glowing. You look amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So if you are interested in connecting with the both of us, I will add all the information to be able to connect with every single panel of guests, as well as with my platform, Cultured Society, in the description box below this video. And I pray again that you are blessed by these conversations and that you take away some nuggets of wisdom that are going to continue to allow you to thrive in your divine purpose. May you be blessed always. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.